Hi Femi, thanks so much for being here for this. We're really interested in what you have to tell us about the project. But just before, just tell me a little bit about what you're studying at BMET.
So my name is Olufemi Davies, and I study Computing and Creative IT, level 3, and this is my final year.
Okay, and are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I am.
So you don't mind if I call you Femi? Because
That's all right.
Okay, that's perfect. So Femi, the project went on for 8-9 weeks?
Yeah.
So before you actually came down to AWS to present in March, tell us what the format and how you found the project up to that point. What did you do?
Well, it was new. I'd say that because, like I've done projects before, but I think the difference was that I was working with a team, and that made it because when you have a lot of people, you have different opinions, and that was one of the things I learned. Right? Because it's one thing to have your own idea, but then there's 4 other people who have different ideas. So I remember we were at a meeting, and then everyone sort of was saying different things, and Michael, the team leader, said, "Okay, everyone stop. Everyone just spit out what's in your mind, and what do you think we're doing at this point?" And then we found out that everyone had like completely different ideas of what we're doing.
Ideas.
Yeah, they were all good, but they were all from different perspectives. So I think the experience of learning to work with a team and learning to work with different people was very. It was.
So weren't people you'd worked with before, were they?
No, that was the first time I had met them.
And that was part of the point,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Because in business you don't know who you're going to work
Yeah.
from. So do you feel that you developed some skills that you hadn't got before around presentations and things like that? What kind of skills do you think you...
Yeah, listening skills, because I mean I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, when you're dealing with more than one person you have to learn to listen and all of that, and it's one thing to agree with it when you're not in that situation, but then there's sometimes where you think what this person is saying is just purely wrong, and you have to learn to listen, and that's the only way you can foster cooperation. So
do you think you're more ready for working, for a career, than you were at the beginning of the project?
yeah, I think I am.
No, that's great. So just tell me a little bit about, or a lot really, because it's what's important, what happened on the day? Because this is the inspirational piece. So what happened on the day?
Yeah, so funny story. So the night before, Akash and I were at the library till 9 p.m. and there was a few things we needed to brush up on the presentation and all of that. So we went home late, and then I got home, I was working on my computer, and I suddenly went off and didn't wake up until 6 a.m. when I was supposed to actually be at college, getting ready to get on the bus. And I woke up and I looked at the time. I was like, no, I felt like I was in a nightmare, because it was just too important to like wake up late. How can I start this? And then things are already going bad. I'll just say it was special. That's it.
So what did you do after that? Because the bus, you were Birmingham coming all the way down to London, so all of your group and things like that were on the coach and everything. So what did you decide to do?
To be honest, the first thing I did was I probably cried a little. It was because I wasn't just thinking about myself. There were 4 other people, and I was in charge of the presentation. So I called Michael, the team leader, and then he was like, okay. At that time it was 6 o'clock, so they had not left. He was like, try to get here as soon as you can. Then I spoke to my mom. She said she was gonna drop me. But then before I got ready, before I could like get in the car and all of that, Michael said, oh, we just left and that. So I told my mom not to worry, and then I went out of the house with my bag and my laptop. Like, I was sort of waiting for a miracle, something like that to happen. And then I decided, actually it was Michael who made me, because he said, oh, just send me the presentation, it's all right. And to me, he sounded way too comfortable for me. It was really like, later I found out that Michael at that point had actually taken off his tie and everything.
He was
he was really worried,
to everyone.
but he was so calm on the phone. So I got out, and then I was going to take the train. They decided, no, I'd rather take the coach. So I get a few hours to collect my thoughts and calm down. So I just went, bought a coach ticket and got on the next coach to London.
So that was really impressive, because at that point you could have just turned around and said, oh, I'm just going to miss it. So tell us the rest of the journey. So you got the coach all the way down to London, and then you arrived at Victoria?
Yeah, so between the coach and between getting to London from Birmingham coach station here, it was like what really changed, I'll say it changed me, because like I said, Michael was very calm on the phone, and I was supposed to have given him the presentation the night before, but obviously I was not awake to do that. And then so I was working on like the final beats of the presentation, and Michael kept speaking to me on the phone. So he kept in touch, and every time he'd be like, oh, don't worry, it's all gonna be fine. But then apparently on the other side of the phone, he wasn't thinking it was gonna be fine. He just...
No, we were watching him,
yeah,
so we could see that it was going to be fine.
So, I got to Victoria coach station, and then there was the issue of how to get the fastest way to get to London. It was about 12 o'clock. We had a presentation at 1, and I was thinking, oh, if I get to the train, it's gonna take me a while, because the queues on the train is so to get the tickets is so long, and sometimes it's longer than because I wasn't going far, so I was gonna think, oh, let me get an Uber or a taxi, and then apparently that's when Michael spoke to you about it, and said
getting a taxi.
Yeah, getting a taxi, and even in the taxi, it was still very long. I mean, one of the reasons why I don't fancy traveling in London is because of the traffic. It's just too much.
So you would have got, if you'd known London, you would have got a tube, and actually you would have probably been able to get there really quickly, but it was too difficult to explain to you how to get the tube. What happened when you walked into the room?
So everyone led by you, they burst into a round of applause, and it was really funny, because I didn't know if it was out of sarcasm or they were really admiring the fact that I got on the coach to London. And then
we were all really impressed, because that's a really good example of somebody who hits the wall and finds a way around it. You didn't stop. Tell me why you didn't stop, because that, when you spoke on the day, that's what was so inspirational. You didn't stop because?
Yeah, so the reason why I didn't stop wasn't because I was strong, because at that point in time, when there are points where you fall, and then there are points where you fall down, so that's like, it was really hard for me. I fell off, So when I spoke to Michael, I was expecting that he was going to be mad on the phone, and he was going to be like, and I was ready to take it all, because I was like, yeah. But then he was just so calm on the phone, and I was like, no, I can't just leave them hanging, because these people, like, they've trusted me even when I still failed them, and it was so inspiring.
Well, you inspired us all, because you didn't let anybody down, and that's always the biggest thing. So it was really quite something. So when everybody was clapping, it was in admiration that you'd made so much effort, because anybody can make a mistake. It's how you fix it that matters always in life, isn't it, really? So it was just incredible. So what do you think you learned personally from that experience?
Yeah, the first thing I learned is what it really means to be a leader, because I always thought, and because of my background, how I've been raised, where in school they always taught us to compete, like to be the best person there, and I always thought the leader should always be the person who knows the most and is more qualified than the rest of the people. But what Michael taught me was that the leader is the person who can inspire other people. When I got to London, my friends were telling me about the fact that some of them went to the toilet, stayed for 20 minutes, just hoping that I would make it at 1 o'clock, and they weren't even in my team, but because of Michael's courage, he inspired the rest of other people, and it just shows how you can you can get people to support your cause when you can inspire them. And I also learned it's not, the game is not over until it's just over. So if I had decided I'm just gonna stay in Birmingham, there would be no experience and all of that.
So you've also learned to have about 6 alarm clocks.
Yeah, I did.
Get bed early and have 6 alarm clocks, I guess. Time
Yeah.
management, really key. Hey?
One valuable lesson I learned was that you shouldn't like. I've always been told not to overwork myself the day before, but I guess I experienced it firsthand, and then I learned that you should give space for yourself to rest, especially before the big day. So learn to calm down and collect your thoughts properly.
And I think what Michael learned was to ask. So I keep using that expression, if you don't ask, you don't get. So Michael, when I saw how worried he was, we just moved you to the end of the day. So you had plenty of time in the end and Michael could relax. So if he'd have asked earlier, so I guess that was probably his lesson to ask when you need to. So how do you think the experience that you went through kind of helps you into the future? So would you talk about this experience if you went for a job interview, for example, and say this is what went wrong? Because I think you probably earned people's respect and this is how you fixed it.
If the day after that, I got home and I was like working on my LinkedIn profile, and I put that as my summary because I feel it's one of those things I would never forget in my life. So it's changed me in the sense that I've always been, and my sister noticed that I'm always someone who is uptight, so I want people to get this done and just do it straight away. But now I've learned like sometimes you have to give people a chance to prove themselves, to prove how much they're worth, to prove their loyalty. And it's a story I will keep telling people every time. I want them to know, like, when you fall down, you have to get up again. And this is one thing I said at the AWS presentation was that when you're forming a team, it's not necessarily about getting the most qualified people, because if you when you're in a team, you're together. So the best team is people who would help you carry your weight and even carry you when you're down, because there's sometimes you get down and there's nothing that's gonna bring you up, but then there are those people around you. I mean, I got to London and Michael and the team had put together a presentation that the one we used was the one that Michael, because before during the project I sent them snippets of like what I wanted them to talk about, and so they just put on together a presentation from there. And I was really, the fact was that at that point now I felt like I had done nothing, but still everything like went well.
And they didn't want to do it without you, which I found really impressive. They wanted to wait until you got there, which was, you were obviously a team, and that was obvious, which is why you won the prize that you won for Best Reflection, because you worked so well together as a team. So that's incredible. So just finally, what do you want to do next? What's your career ambitions? What do you want to do? Because I told you I thought you should be a public speaker, because the way that you inspired, there wasn't a dry eye in the house when you gave your talk at the end.
Yeah, before the project, I wanted to be a software developer who just like works on his own. So like Zuckerberg kind of person. But
not a good example at the moment.
Yeah, not at the moment. No, but I'm kind of like looking towards working to solve problems using IT. So then I'll work in a team with people who we inspire each other, and then we come up with solutions developing software and IT solutions to help people solve the problems in business, health, and all of those.
So will you go on to university next, or what do you think you?
I'm looking to go on to either the university or an apprenticeship, depending on what course either of them has to offer. That would help me in my ambition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just one last thing, because just tell everybody how long you've actually been in the country, because your English is really good. So, how long have you actually been here?
So I came in this country to this country in August 2016, and so that's a year and a few months.
Yeah, fantastic, really fantastic. Thank you, Femi. I mean, it's just an inspirational story. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.